Hidden in the hills of Bavaria's Spessart Forest, a forgotten castle overlooks a small village with centuries of history. Today we're wandering around Eschau, hiking through the Spessart Forest, and exploring the ruins of Wildenstein Castle. Hey adventurers, today we have a really cool day planned because we are going to hike up to Wildenstein Ruine, which is Wildenstein Castle ruins. And this is in the middle of the Spessart Forest. Now what makes this so special is I found this on the map quite a while ago and I was just like, all right, I gotta check this place out. Not to mention that Spessart Forest is absolutely saturated with legends, ghost stories, crazy dark history. I mean, the Brothers Grimm, many of their stories have come from this location. So not only that, we're going to start today in Eschau. It's a small village within the Spessart, then hike up to the Burg Arena. Along the way, I'm going to talk about how the legends and ghost stories and all the folklore in the Spessart, what they're all about. So let's get started for the day because we got a little bit of a hike and we're going to try to beat the rain today. So let's get going. Eschau sits quietly on the edge of the Spessart Forest, a region once ruled by the powerful Counts of Rieneck. The village dates back nearly 1,000 years. Its church, St. Burchard, still holds traces of Romanesque stonework beneath later Baroque layers. And for centuries, Eschau's farmers and craftsmen supported the castles hidden in the surrounding forest, including Wildenstein, just a short hike from here. Even today, Eschau keeps that old world rhythm, peaceful, traditional, and surrounded by nature. All right, so we are leaving Eschau right now, and I have to be honest with you, I did not know much about Eschau. And I don't think a lot of people that are traveling to this castle know much about Eschau. And no disrespect to Eschau because it was a wonderful town. It seems to be there was a lot of tractors going through the town. It's a very quaint Spessart Forest town. The people we talked to, there was a couple people we talked to, they were lovely. And it's just one of those towns you don't go to because it's not like your Heidelbergs, it's not this, but we like the off the beaten path places. And Eschau, you might even, if you're going to Burg Wildenstein, Burg Arena, Entschuldigung. If you're going to Burg Arena, Wildenstein, you might just get off the bus here and go straight to the castle. But you shouldn't do that. You should definitely check it out. I liked it. It was a nice town, but we are on the way to Vildenstein Castle now. And we're going to stop midway before there, and we're going to talk about some of the legends in the Spessart. Because this place, as I said earlier, is just absolutely full of legends and history. It is a history nerd and legend nerd's dream. So let's keep going. We're hiking through the Spessart Forest right now, and as I said earlier, there are a ton of legends, witch tales, ghost stories, even the Brothers Grimm tales. Many of them came from this area. And if you ask yourself, why is that? Well, you have to kind of look at the history here. The history is incredibly dark, and I know people, when they sit in history class in school, they're like, oh my gosh, I gotta hear something out of the book, I gotta read from the book. No, this is different kind of history. I'm gonna tell you the fun stuff, or the dark stuff. Because all of this history in this region really kind of goes back to the Celtics and even before that, prehistoric. But we're going to talk about civilization because the Celtics were here, the Romans were here, the Germanics were here across the river, on the other side of the Main River. Then after that, you're talking about King Clovis with the Franks came in here. You're talking about a very, very, very famous Holy Roman Emperor, Frederick Barbarossa. He was here. And so that is only until the 12th century. After that is when the stuff gets really wild. Because when you're talking about from 1517 all the way into about 1640, something like this, you have the Martin Luther Reformation, which is a huge thing that caused a lot of wars, caused a lot of disagreement. Then you have, with that, two famines that came with that, two Black Deaths that came with that. Then you get into the 1620s and 1630s, and you had massive witch trials. Now, I'm not talking about Salem, Massachusetts, 9 people. No offense to them, but that is really, really small compared to what happened in Europe. You're talking hundreds and even 1,000 if you're going all the way to Bamberg. So there were lots and lots of witch trials in this region. Then on top of that, you had the 30 Years' War right after that, or during that, right after. So all of that stuff, just think about this. We're hiking through a region or an area where all of this crazy stuff happened. So over time, as I said in my previous episode, a lot of these people back then really believed the supernatural, especially if they couldn't explain why things were happening, which kind of explains why the witch trials took place, because you had 2 famines, 2 Black Deaths. things were going crazy around that time, so let's blame the witches. Now, what I'm going to do as we continue to hike to the castle is I'm going to tell you a couple of the legends that come from this area. As I said, the Brothers Grimm tales, many of them come from the Spessart. So let's keep on hiking, and I'm going to tell you a couple of the tales, or a couple of the legends, at least at a high level. So let's keep on hiking because I want to get there. And I heard about an apple wine place in this town right outside the castle. So after that, I'm hoping they're open because I want to introduce you guys to apple wine. But let's get going. So if you watched last episode in the Odenwald, we had a special guest with us. And this was a Halloween episode. So we're bringing back Fred because Fred is pretty cool. And why am I talking about this? Because Fred likes to hide. And Fred is going to be hiding in this video at some point in time. And when you see Fred, let me know in the comments where you see him. Now, it could be in the castle, it could be along the way in the Spessart. Keep your eyes peeled and let me know where you see Fred. Let's keep going. In the heart of the Spessart dwells the Waldweibchen, the little forest woman. She wanders at dawn and dusk, wrapped in moss and bark, her hair pale as birch. To those honoring the forest, she's a guide, leading the lost safely home. But to those who take without need, who hunt or fell trees in greed, she brings misfortune. Old hunters claim to hear laughter when an unblessed tree fell. Farmers left bread and salt at hollow oaks to win her favor. As Folklore records, the Waldweibchen is no demon, but a guardian of balance, a spirit that protects those who respect the land and punishes those who forget. This is amazing. I did not expect this. I've seen pictures online, but I did not expect this. So this is an active archaeological site here. As you can see around here, I'm going to try to sneak in here real quick. They are still actively digging things up from the past. In fact, a lot of the things that they have found here are like human shard, like things, pottery, small little things that maybe people have discarded in the past that kind of gave them an idea or a sense of what kind of wealth this place has to offer, but they are still actively digging these up. And in the Spessart, as I said earlier, the history here is astounding. Before we even get into the ghost story, which we are going to get to, the history in the Spessart, as I said earlier, is astounding because you have a lot of these types of places. In fact, there are two that I live near that just got archaeologically dug up in the last 20 to 30 years, which is insane. In Germany, there's somewhere between 20,000 and 30,000 castles, and they're still finding them all the time. But what is this place, or what was this place? For that, let's learn a little bit about the history before we get into the tale. Alright, so here's the history. Wildenstein Castle was built around 1230 by the Counts of Rieneck to protect their lands from nearby Archbishop of Mainz. It stood high above the Elsava Valley, controlling trade routes through the forest. In 1260, it was caught in conflict and partially destroyed during a siege. Though it was rebuilt, the castle slowly lost its importance over the centuries, and by the 1600s it was abandoned. The forest began reclaiming it stone by stone. Archaeologists have since uncovered traces of earlier medieval settlements, showing that the site was even older than once thought. Today, only fragments of the gatehouse and walls remain, but standing here, it's easy to imagine what life would have looked like for the guards, travelers, and families who once called this place home. Look, I know that was a lot of history to take in, but when you're in a place such as this, you really should learn a little bit about the history. Remember, this channel is about what is that. It's not just simply B-roll, some crazy music, and then that's all. We are going to learn a little bit about the places we go because as tourists, when we see these things, a lot of times we really are asking that question, what is that? So that's what we're going to do here, as I said earlier. But now it is time for the ghostly story of Wildenstein Ruine. So let's get into the tale. And so the legend goes, long after the Counts of Rieneck had vanished and the castle lay in ruin, a shepherd watched his flock on the slopes below Wildenstein. One night he was awakened by a trembling in the earth. Peering outside, he saw a woman in white, her head veiled in black, beckoning from the shadows. Terrified, he hid until morning, then told his lord. If she returns, the Lord advised, speak to her. Say, all good spirits praise the Lord, and ask what she desires. That night the apparition came again. The shepherd did as told, and she replied, I am the cursed lady of Wildenstein. You can free me. Tomorrow between 11 and midnight, meet me at the castle bridge. I shall come as a serpent. Fear me not, and I will give you the keys. At the appointed hour, thunder shook the ruins. From the darkness, a serpent of silver gray emerged, keys glinting in its mouth.
But fear overcame the shepherd. He fled into the forest. And in that instant, the serpent became the weeping woman once more. "Woe," she cried, "another 100 years must pass before I'm freed, until a cradle is made from the cherry tree that will grow here, and the first child laid within it releases me." The shepherd never saw her again, yet in the stillness of the Spessart nights, they say her sorrow still echoes through the forest.
I hope everyone enjoyed that tale, that ghostly story. I do want to say that on my channel, not every single legend that we do cover is going to be a ghost story. There are other types of legends, especially all around Germany, all around Europe, all around the world, and we're going to get into those as we take journeys along the way. It is starting to rain a little bit. It's time to kind of get back. We got to hike, I don't know, 3-4 kilometers back to Eschau. However, as I said earlier in the video, I did see an apple wine store. I know about an apple wine restaurant along the way. Apple wine is not necessarily part of this region, but it's the region next to us in Hesse, the state of Hesse, which is where Frankfurt is. It's very famous for apple wine. Here is more of wine-beer mix. We're in Franconia, which is the northern part of Bavaria. However, they still do have apple wine because we are very close to that area, so they still have apple wine here as well. And we're going to try some apple wine. I hope it's open. Let's get going there. I'm hoping they're open right now because that'll be great if we can do that. So let's get going before we finish the video. All right, so we stopped in Wildenstein, and both of the places were closed that I thought, but we're pretty resourceful, and we ended up finding ourselves somebody that's still celebrating a little Oktoberfest, even though it's a bit late. So I got myself a beer. My producer behind the camera, she got a Apfelwein, which is, like I said, it's kind of in this region. It's a little bit of wine, a little bit of beer in this region. So I think this is a good place to end it. We're back in Eschau. We're gonna have a drink, and kind of just, it seems to be a local establishment, so I'm looking forward to it. If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like, all that stuff, and don't forget to comment, where did you see Fred? Until next time, adventurers, adventure awaits.